Welcome to the Explainer. Today we are diving into a really fascinating text from the classical Buddhist Pali canon. It's called the Chappana Sutta, or simply the Six Animals. And you know, what's so great about this text is that it's not just dry, dusty philosophy. Not at all. It uses these incredibly vivid, visceral metaphors to diagnose exactly why we feel so distracted and exhausted in our everyday lives. And even better, it gives us a very specific, practical cure. So let's just jump right in and see how the text sets the stage.
Okay, just take a second and really imagine this scenario. Quote, suppose that a man, wounded and festering, were to go into a swampy jungle. Its sharp-bladed grasses would pierce his feet. Its thorns would scratch his festering sores. I mean, wow, it's an intensely painful image, right? You've got a traveler who is already injured, already dealing with these festering wounds, and he decides to just wade right into a thick, swampy jungle. Every single step he takes, sharp grasses are slicing into his feet. Every branch he brushes past, thorns rake across open sores. It is pure, agonizing aggravation. The environment is just relentlessly attacking his vulnerabilities. Now, what's super fascinating here is what that wounded traveler actually represents. The text explains that this guy is actually a metaphor for us. Specifically, a person navigating the world with what the sutta calls an unrestrained mind. So that swampy jungle, that's just the normal, everyday world we live in. And the thorns and sharp grasses, well, those are the everyday encounters, the criticisms, the irritations, and the temptations we face all the time. When we walk out into the world without any mental restraint, we're essentially walking around with open, festering sores. Every minor inconvenience or sharp comment literally pierces us. We take it all in, and we suffer an even greater measure of pain and unhappiness simply because we don't have a protective layer. So how exactly do we interact with this swampy jungle of a world? Well, it happens through 6 distinct channels. We've got the familiar 5 physical senses, of course, the eye processing forms, the ear taking in sounds, the nose smelling aromas, the tongue tasting flavors, and the body feeling tactile sensations. But pay close attention to that 6th point. In this framework, the intellect, our mind, is treated exactly like a sense organ, perceiving ideas and thoughts. These 6 senses are basically the doors through which the entire world enters our awareness. They're how we constantly interact with and react to everything in our environment.
And here's the absolutely crucial point. What happens when these 6 senses are completely unrestrained? Well, without restraint, our minds basically behave like a chaotic pendulum. When the eye sees something beautiful or the intellect encounters a really flattering idea, we become utterly obsessed with pleasing forms. We crave them, we want to hold on to them forever. But the literal second we encounter something ugly, or hear a sound we hate, or face an insulting idea, we swing wildly to the exact opposite extreme. We are aggressively repelled by unpleasing forms. Obsessed by the good, repelled by the bad. We get caught in this relentless, exhausting ping-pong match, constantly chasing pleasure and running away from discomfort with absolutely zero stability.
And that brings us to the central metaphor of the entire sutta, which is just incredibly vivid. To help us truly understand this frantic lack of restraint, the text asks us to imagine a pretty bizarre scenario. Picture a person who goes out and catches 6 wild animals. But not just any animals. We're talking 6 animals from completely different environments with completely different biological instincts. Now imagine this person takes a thick, incredibly strong rope and binds all 6 of these wild beasts tightly together. So we've got a captive crew of 6. A snake, whose natural instinct is to slide right into an anthill or a dark hole. A crocodile, desperate to drag itself back into the water. A bird, frantically trying to fly up into the air. A dog, wanting to run straight back to the familiar sights and scraps of the village. A hyena, instinctively drawn to the charnel ground or graveyard. And finally, a monkey, whose only desire is to swing up into the trees of the forest. I mean, just picture this in your head. You've got a crocodile tied to a bird. A monkey tied to a snake. The frantic, chaotic energy of this bundle of animals is totally off the charts because every single one of them desperately wants to escape to its own specific habitat. Now imagine what happens next. The text says the person ties a knot right in the middle of these ropes and simply sets them loose. Total, absolute chaos ensues. The bird is flapping furiously to go up, which is effectively dragging the crocodile out of the mud. The monkey is sprinting for the tree line, pulling the dog away from the village. The snake is diving for the ground, actively fighting the hyena. Every single animal is pulling relentlessly with literally all of its strength in 6 completely opposite directions. There's no coordination, no peace, just a violent, multi-directional tug of war. So ultimately, what's the result of this massive struggle? It leads to total exhaustion and forced surrender. The animals don't actually get to where they want to go. Instead, they just become internally exhausted. Their strength gives out. And what happens is, they simply come under the sway of whichever beast happens to be the strongest in that particular moment. Say the monkey has a sudden burst of adrenaline. Well, the other 5 get painfully dragged into the forest for a bit. If the crocodile surges, they all get dragged toward the water. It's a miserable, draining existence where everyone is just being dragged along by the strongest impulse. And here is where the ancient text directly connects this wild metaphor right back to you and me. Those 6 animals, there are 6 senses. When we live without mental restraint, our eyes are the monkey, pulling us relentlessly toward a glowing screen or a beautiful object. Our intellect is the bird, flying off into daydreams and anxieties. Our tongue is the dog, craving that next delicious flavor. All day long, our senses are pulling us in 6 completely different directions toward whatever they crave, fighting each other, dragging our attention this way and that. Honestly, it's no wonder we feel so internally drained and exhausted at the end of the day. We're literally being dragged around by whichever sensory craving happens to be the loudest at any given second. Okay, let's just pause here for a second. Take a deliberate breath. We've mapped out the problem, and let's face it, it's a deeply relatable one. We feel this tug of war every single day. So the most important question we can ask right now is this: how does the monk stop this exhaustion? How can we possibly escape this constant, exhausting pull of the senses and find some actual peace? If cutting the ropes just isn't an option, what on earth do we do with these wild animals? Well, the text reveals a profound yet incredibly practical solution. We don't try to kill the animals, and we certainly don't let them keep dragging us. Instead, we tether them to the strong post. The ancient text explicitly defines this strong post, or stake, as mindfulness immersed in the body. This is the anchor. By actively developing a deep, continuous awareness of our physical body in the present moment, feeling our breath, our posture, the sensation of our feet on the floor, we are essentially driving a massive, unmovable wooden stake deep into the earth of our minds. So let's revisit our wild animal metaphor for a second and see how fundamentally the dynamic shifts here. We still have the exact same 6 animals. We still have our eyes, our ears, our intellect. We still have that strong rope. But this time, instead of just tying a knot in the middle and letting them drag each other all over the jungle, the rope binding them all together is securely, tightly tethered to that massive, unmoving, strong post of body mindfulness. Now, does tethering them instantly make them tame? Not at all. At first, the animals still act exactly like wild animals. The snake still pulls frantically, thinking, I'm gonna go into that anthill. The crocodile still thrashes, trying to reach the water. The bird still tries to launch itself into the sky. Your eyes still want to look at distractions. Your mind still wants to run away into pleasing daydreams or stress out about unpleasing ideas. But now, they aren't dragging you, because the post firmly, effortlessly holds its ground. The anchor of the body simply does not move, no matter how hard the senses pull against it. And this leads us to a really peaceful, new outcome. Step 1 is the pulling. The animals exert themselves fighting against the rope. Step 2 is internal exhaustion. But see, this is a very different kind of exhaustion than before. Before, they exhausted themselves dragging each other around. Now, they exhaust themselves against an immovable object. They realize the pulling is totally futile, which leads right into step 3, resting by the post. Eventually, the crocodile stops thrashing, the bird lands, the monkey sits down. They submit, they stop fighting, and they quietly rest, stand, sit, or lie down right there next to the post. The struggle simply ceases. Here we can clearly see the transformation. Without restraint, our baseline state means we are constantly pulled, obsessed by the pleasing and violently repelled by the unpleasing. Body mindfulness is unestablished, and our awareness is really limited. But with restraint, body mindfulness is established as our strong post. And because we're anchored, the eye no longer pulls us away. Unpleasing ideas no longer repel us. We actually achieve a state of immeasurable awareness and true release, where those frantic, unskillful mental qualities utterly cease. We are finally at rest. To really bring this home, the sutta leaves us with this final authoritative instruction from the Buddha. Quote, "Thus you should train yourselves. We will develop mindfulness immersed in the body. We will pursue it, hand it the reins, and take it as a basis, give it a grounding. We will steady it, consolidate it, and set about it properly." This isn't just some passive suggestion, guys. It is a clear, actionable directive. You have to actively choose to build that post. You have to hand the reins over to your grounded bodily awareness, rather than letting your 6 wild animals run the show.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to ponder. What is your strong post today? I mean, in the midst of the swampy jungle of modern life, all the emails, the notifications, the endless noise pulling your senses in 1,000 different directions, how are you actually grounding yourself? Take a moment today to literally feel your feet on the floor, feel your breath in your lungs, and let those wild animals of your senses finally rest. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll see you in the next explainer.